Okay, I apologize for that. I know where I stopped at though, and so we are on to part three. We got up to close to 25 minutes there again, and I apologize again for my length of discussion here, but I really shouldn't apologize for it because it's all knowledge towards this. Um, what I was saying before was that the problem with Isaiah is Isaiah is not written originally in Greek or Latin, but Hebrew. And I can assure you that Hebrew does not have a word for Lucifer in it, or a translatable word that would even spell it or get you close to it that would have anything to do with what's going on. I tried. So it's words that come out of phosphorus that come from that. It seems to be there's no Hebrew or Aramaic text in which the word in this verse is to correspond, and we find such words as Hallel or Eilel, which is a form of Hebrew stem of Yalal or Il. Meaning, what's the meaning of Il? Well, Ilu back in Sumerian was their gods, and it's something that's not shown right here in the writing here, but Ilil and Ilu is a word for their gods too in some way. So Il, in their words, though, the straight word that is actually there that translates as Lucifer, it means howl. That's right, Lucifer turns out to be nothing more than a howl, maybe a howl of hot air. It has been suggested that translators of the Septuagint Hebrew into Greek could have overlooked the smallest of Hebrew letters, or being using a copy which had been inadvertently omitted. Thus, the form would have been Eilel, would have turned into Il, or shortened to El, this meaning it would be derived from a different root. In fact, it would be itself a different root, and in a sense, giving a Septuagint Vulgate would be at least understandable with one giant exception. There's still absolutely no reason, rule, or grammar for turning this word into a personal name and putting a capital onto it. It could possibly mean a shining one, but not a person name such as Lucifer. Doubtless the translators followed the Vulgate as they did most of their time when translating. Even such eminent translators as Rotherham seem to follow the Septuagint in this verse, however, from his comments within parentheses, it is clear that he was fully aware of the fact that whatever this word meant, it was referring to none other the context but the king of Babylon and not Satan. How hast thou, Babylon, see text, fallen from heaven, O shining one, O howl, son of the dawn. Babylon conspicuous as Venus, he says, hewn down to the earth, O crusher of nations. Yeah, Babylon conspicuous as Venus. Where do you get that from? That's from Inanna, and she was Venus. You know, Venus and Diana, and she was Venus, and that's the star Venus, and we still call it today. And what does it do? It does that precession that, if you saw the other video, it does an actual pentagram whenever it wobbles through the sky. It's incredible. It looks just like a pentagram star, just like a spirograph, though it slowly spins while it's doing it. Clearly, the reference is to Babylon and no other. It was Babylon which was exalted to heaven as conspicuous as Venus, the brightest star of the morning, in her wealth, power, and glory, just as Capernaum might always say, brought down to earth the one who is a crusher of nations. Same phrasing used there by Jesus. So next I will list the King James rendering of the word as found in Hebrew texts and transliterations formed in every occurrence in the entire King James Bible. I'm not going to do this, people. I'm just going to let you look at it. Now you can be the judge, and I'll here be your American text of Isaiah 14:12. This is all of them. And where you can find the word Hallel or El, which is the form of the Hebrew stem Yal, meaning how. Here is Kittle's Hebrew text for the Hebrew stem Il, or how. And each one of these is, well, there's a lot of them in Isaiah, and they are howl ye, shall howl ye, make to howl, and shall howl. And this is how they're all spelled out of here. Weirdly out of this too, this is almost at the name of Enlil. Enlil, the howling of the air, is almost the name of Enlil, which is the Sumerian god, if y'all have followed any of that through it. So, and Elil and Elu, and these are the gods of the Akkadians and stuff. And then they've got it here where they're howling and stuff. And so their word for howl is their word for God. It's kind of a play on ha ha ha, and shall be howlings, Ililu, right? And so all of these, but It's funny how all of these alliterations of that word are there, but then this one that left out the one letter, that's just one letter different than all of these, all of a sudden, it's not Hal, but it's Lucifer. That's what I was talking about in the other video whenever I was like, hey, it's talking about this guy, talking about this guy, talking about this guy, talking about this guy, then talking about Lucifer. That doesn't make any sense, just like every other usage of this in the Bible is for howling. Now, I'm going to go into this just a little bit, but so Strong's Concordance tells you howl. That's what that word means. How you fell from the heavens, howl you, son of dawn, you were kicked down to the earth, one dang over the nations, right? So there you get the fact that it's a howl in the ancient Hebrew and what that word means. Notice carefully that the Hebrew verb eel in Isaiah 14 is the identical first verb eel in Zechariah 11:12. Now try substituting the personal noun Lucifer in place of that. Let's just do this where we place it out. So whenever he turns around and says the cedar trees are fallen, would it be right for him to say Lucifer fir tree, for the cedar is fallen because the mighty are spoiled. Lucifer, O ye yokes of Bashan, for no, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense, right? Just like instead of howl, O gate, cry, O city, we would have to say Lucifer, O gate, cry, O city. So what are we calling on Lucifer every time we do this? Well, maybe they are. Maybe they are. Every time they do this, they're straight calling out to Lucifer. Kittle in a footnote informs us that only the Septuagint, which remember the Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures, that we find the word El instead of El. So it's only in that one, and then that's the one that was used for the King James Bible, and then everybody gropes off of that. And no wonder in my 1633 Bible it doesn't show it. This word is translated as Esperos, which Jerome translated into Lucifer with a capital L, which the King James translator carried over into English without checking the Hebrew manuscripts at all, which would have solved this problem and this dilemma. And we wouldn't have had this idea that Lucifer is a big coming morning star thing. And we'd also be closer to the idea of realizing that this went down a long time ago with these people in Babylon and wasn't something we were expecting, like some doomsday cult for the world to end here coming up. Look up my video on Jesus says whenever he returns. It should be up here close. And you'll find the truth to whenever Armageddon is supposed to happen. They say nobody's going to know, but then he gives you clues and numbers and all kinds of stuff, and even the Old Testament gives you a few little clues in there because they hid it in there to let everybody know when to pounce, when to make the strike, and it's in there. So you can pause and look at this, but the main point here is, verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, not one jot title shall pass, no wise man pass from the law till it be fulfilled. And they also tell you, do not change one letter, one iota. While a jot is a Greek iota, and in Hebrew a tittle is a yod, which is the very smallest stroke in Hebrew. And just how important are these little iotas? The difference between the absence of that little I that we just talked about is the reason why we have the Lucifer lie. That they transliterate where somebody didn't put an I in the middle of a word that's there for every other word is howl, and they changed it into Lucifer. I go on here, and if you want, I'm going to stop every once in a while and let you know, or let you read, and you can pause this and read each part of it. But down here we start talking about, this is what it wouldn't make any sense to put Lucifer or anything like that they say in there, or a morning star, or brightness at these points in the speech that's coming right here. All of these right here are all versions of whenever you should howl, because they're laid waste, they're destroyed, they're laid waste, they're dissolved, destruction. This is all the destruction that they do in the Bible, by the way, in the name of God, supposedly. But and they're telling him just to cry, to wail, to wallow themselves, howl, ye shepherds, and cry and wallow yourselves in the ashes. It would make no sense to say Lucifer right there, and that's the same word. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her judgment reaches into heaven. And that's a strange statement there, too, because this actually shows you that there's a feeling back towards Yah. His name is Jeremiah, Yah, one of the non-L's, and Yah is Ea from Babylon. And so his name even has it on there. And he's like, oh man, howl for her, for judgment reaches all the way into heaven, where the Queen of Heaven and everything goes. Judgment is that Queen of Heaven dies. No more way. Why? Because she was the queen one time and screwed us up, and we're jealous now. And I hope you got that out of the second video too. But so let's go. On down here. So the king of Babylon is not Satan, and so there we're just pretty much, you can't howl for a fir tree, you know. But when the shoe's on the other foot, it's Babylon who's brought down, because she did weaken the nations and she did shake the kingdoms. And that's just it. That's just it. But what's funny is we read just the opposite, though. Right before it says, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you are laid down, no feller, tree cutter, or destroyer of people has come against us. In a few of the above verses, how we see the following: destroy, destruction, all that stuff. But then all of a sudden, his changes. Howl you for the days at hand, and they killed all these things. Destroy the sinners. I'm not going to look at all this, but they'll be in pain, cruel, wrath, fierce anger, desolate, destroy. His fierce anger, flee, thrust, fall, sword, dashed to pieces. Their wives ravished, dashed to young pieces. Can anyone see why the eye would suggest that the king of Babylon should probably start howling as before he kills them? Like, this is fixing to all happen to you and all your people, and they're going to kill them all off. It's kind of a bloodthirsty thing. You find that it's all premeditated and bloodthirsty, and they're coming and killing people off. It's real disgusting. And it's supposed to be looked at as it was carried out by God, that he was somehow straightening out the world here, right? And Babylon and Sumerians were now looked at as being the greatest ancient culture we ever had, and that they just smoked them off the planet, stole half their religion, and attached it to theirs. Because there's some Yah worshippers around there. There's definitely some Yah worshippers that are there, Ea, because Isaiah is there. And Isaiah ends at 14b that Yah has found Zion. So Isaiah talks a few times about just straight Yah. That's Ea. They put stuff on the end of it sometimes, but Yah. And you talk about Yahweh. Well, Yah would be Ea, the god of the earth of ancient Babylon that got killed off. So, they all get killed and pulled into heaven. But so there's no sign of Satan in any of these verses, though, people. And it's a sign of a language confusion that started all the way back to the Tower of Babel. Well, people will have different letters and different words and different names for things and stuff, and this word means this and that and everything, and it takes the linguists to start pulling it apart. But Satan is only put into prison during the Messiah's reign that they supposedly talk about, so this can't be the death of Satan, and he sure as hell doesn't get eaten up by, things. But the fictitious story of Lucifer is a hoax that needs to be relegated to Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, and Santa Claus. But then again, we actually have all of these things found in sacrifice themselves too in the Easter Bunny. I told you about Inanna and Istar and how she came down in an egg, and her symbol was the bunnies for fertility. And Santa Claus is none other than Saturnalia and the worship of the winter solstice, whenever the sun is said to go to its lowest point on December 21st and symbolically die. And it sits near a constellation called the Southern Cross. So it dies on the cross, and then 3 days later, it starts rising back up to save all humanity from the death of winter and another ice age. And That's Mithra from 1600 to 2100 BC, believe it or not. They believe it actually is 2100 BC because it shows him killing Taurus, which would have been the end of the age of Taurus and the start of Aries. Then you have to go 2100 years before you hit zero at Pisces, which was Jesus. And we just finished that off, and now we're into the new age that Jesus talked about that he was going to leave us in. He would be here to the end of the age. And here we are at the end of that age, finally coming out of this blur of idiot shit at the point of the dawning of the age of Aquarius. So look at more of this information here, though. It's got to where the king of Tyre, are they saying that the king of Tyre was Satan? Yes, they were. They definitely were. And there's your attachment to it. They were saying that he was Satan. And then whenever he got killed off, that was the Satan guy. That was the adversary from within. Right? He's wearing the ephod. This is him. And that he was gorgeous and perfect and everything. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he's sinless or anything. I mean, Noah wasn't perfect in his generations, because you have to be reminded of, you know, what happened with him whining, getting drunk after the flood, and with his kids and so on. You know, perfect is that same word for perfect that's there is the same word that's perfect in the Bible to use for non-blemished animals and non-blemished creatures for sacrifice and stuff. It's the same word. It's not anything that should be deified in any way, you know. So now here they say that thou hast been in the Eden, the Garden Almighty. See, that's where you got to say that it's Satan, because he was back at the Garden of Eden. None of these people were at the Garden of Eden. But actually, whenever you look up that word again in Strong's Concordance, it's Aden, and Aden, it means pleasure. It comes from Eden. That's not the word that's there. So they've tried to twist this around on us, people. It's amazingly disgusting that this extrapolation that they did right here is definitely them unpurposely taking the Aden and turning it into an Eden idea later in the Bible, because the word is Aden, straight up in all the virgins. So that just doesn't make sense. But they turned it into that because they're like, well, it's Satan, so it has to be the Eden thing, because Aden was pleasure. So he used to have pleasure riding around, hanging around in the things. So what's weird about this too is it tells you that you know, here you were on the mountain of God and all that stuff, you know, rising up high to the mountains of God. Who was it that rose up a mountain so high to see to God? Who was that? The Babylonians? The Tower of Babel? Who sits in these big towers? Who has the big cherubim out front of their towers and stuff? This is odd. This is odd, because they're showing you that that they're killing off the last of the Babylonian people here, I think. Taking down their ziggurats. Equating Venus and what she did to this man, even though he's wearing an ephod, and they're going to tear him down too. You know, and they talk about, you know, being created, and they say, well, Satan was created and everything. Well, and God said he created this guy, so that's got to be it too. So here's a whole thing breaking that apart, telling you that no, he said he created Jacob, and he said he created all these people here, and the Ammonites, who I created, you know. And so anybody that lives is created by this God, you know. That's an easy way to show you that's just bullshit, you know. And when he talks about being a cherub, and he says that he's going to tear down him, and he's going to tear down that anointed cherub, as a guardian I place you. Right? So everybody says no, see, because he was the cherub himself, but rather the cherub was placed as a guardian before with King Cyrus. No, look here. And I shall destroy you and the cherub of the one guarding from the midst of the stone of fire. So I don't know why, but he's on, I shall violate you from the mountain of Elohim. And so these ziggurats are known as the mountain of Elohim at one time, people. Yeah. Boy, sure that it does get twisted in the way that you were always brought up thinking that it is, and then all of a sudden you come to find out that that's quite different quite different. And they destroy the cherub guarding him, but they just knock down. They're just going to destroy the art effigy. You know, there's two cherubs guarding the gate and two cherubs leading into the temple and so on. They're going to tear up that cherub that's guarding him right there and throw it away. And that's why. And here it asks you why. You can pause this and read it. But now he goes on to say that, and ye shall be never any more, or ye never shall you be any more, depending on which one you read. Think how absurd it would be to say that Satan would be nevermore, that angels that can't be killed or anything would be nevermore. So how can you say that this king of Tyre is actually Satan? It's not. It's a person they let die in front of them and rot sickly in front of the church for a long period of time to prove a point. Just like they would put heads up on poles. Well, there you have it. Satan was always Satan, and he's never an archangel, cherub, bringer of light, or sure as hell not Lucifer. So was he really, there when no iniquity was found in him? He that commits sins of the devil, for the devil's sins are from the beginning. Well, this shows you the signs of El, too, whenever Jesus tells them that they're of their father the devil, because Satan didn't change the devil into a murderer at some later day. No, you are your father the devil. John 8:44. You're of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. And so who are they worshiping? He's letting you know they're worshiping El right there. He was the God that had to kill his children to stay alive to do anything. So at the beginning of his story, he was a murderer at the beginning. People say, oh, they're from Cain, because Cain was a murderer from the beginning. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, and they're the Canaanites. Yeah, you can see that they tried to make that connection, that the evil of Cain got passed down. What did he say, 4 generations? No, it went a hell of a lot longer than that, didn't it? But no, this is all silly equations and rubbish that people try to pull together and tell you that Satan is actually Lucifer, and that they're not two separate entities. And I find them to be two totally different entities. And always did. Lucifer was somebody that was coming that, you could tell from Revelations, wasn't actually the same creature, but doing something from primordial time that wasn't mentioned. Now, as I've grown up, looked through all this and found out the Sumerian and the Queen of Heaven and everything, you go, that's her. That's the one they're undeifying. Why are they undeifying her? What attachment do they have her? You find that Abraham and their family used to be from there, and that they left from there for some reason, and from then on were jealous of them and wanted to destroy them. And then they ended up taking over the Canaanites' land. Yeah, which actually in history will show you that they didn't even do that themselves. They walked in after the Egyptians did. The Egyptians have a famous stele, the very first mentioning of Israel. It says Israel's seed is no more. Israel is the Canaanite people worshiping Saturn here. It's not even the Israelites that you're thinking of. And then they step in, the nomadic tent people that don't have a place to live, step into that town and go la 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 and start their little worship there and go from there. And then cause genocide on a few other people. And the rest of them that they say that they do, it doesn't look like they actually did, which is one beautiful thing, because the amount of genocide they did surely warrants a trial at Nuremberg again for the type of atrocities that are even listed right there and agreed to by their God. I mean, you should be able to do a whole Hitler trial type thing on them for this. This seems that way or much worse and very barbaric and terrible. I'm not trying to make light of the Hitler thing at all. And by the way, he killed more Christians than he did Jews, regardless of what the Jews try to say. Anyhow, the only thing that saved him, God didn't save him. The Christians saved him. The white people from around him came and killed Hitler and let him loose from the concentration camps and saved what was left of the Ashkenazi Jews. But that even weren't real true Jews. All the true Jews had gotten killed, just as the Romans had said at the Jewish Revolt of 73. You can look it up or watch my video on it. But anyhow, this destroys the fact of, is Lucifer Satan? Part 3. I thank y'all for watching. Check out some more hot vids. Like this if you got through it all with me. Thank y'all.